Hey there and welcome. Today, we're doing a serious communication upgrade. We're going to move way beyond that basic textbook English and start using phrases that will make you sound so much more polished, professional, and honestly, just more connected in any conversation. All right, let's get into it. Does this sound familiar at all? You're in a meeting, you totally know the words, but when you speak, it just comes out a little flat, maybe even a bit robotic. You know what I mean. Well, today we are going to fix that, especially when we talk about the super important skills of agreeing and disagreeing. So, the whole idea here is pretty simple. We're going to swap out those phrases that, yeah, they're technically correct, but they can come across as kind of blunt. And we'll replace them with alternatives that are way more polished and professional. Because look, it's not just about what you say, it's about building a real connection and showing respect.
Okay, let's kick things off with our very first upgrade. Agreeing. But we're not just talking about simply agreeing. We're talking about agreeing with some real enthusiasm. This is how you show someone you're genuinely on the same page and build that instant rapport.
So here's our starting point. The classic, I agree. It's fine, it works. But it can also be a total conversation stopper. It doesn't add any energy, right? Trust me, we can do so much better. So let's try our first alternative. I feel the same way. Just notice that little shift. It's immediately more personal, it's more engaging. And here's why this is so good. It's because it's not just about facts anymore. It's about sharing a feeling or an opinion. You're not just agreeing with an abstract idea, you're actually connecting with a person. That's a huge difference.
Now, for a classic idiom that signals total enthusiastic agreement, you've got this one. You can say that again. This is such a powerful and natural sounding tool to have in your back pocket.
So the key thing to remember here is that you use this when you strongly agree. If your coworker says, man, this project is really challenging, and you come back with, you can say that again, what you're really communicating is, I am 100% with you on that. Okay, now for the part that can feel a little tricky, the art of disagreeing. Let me tell you, learning to do this gracefully is one of the most valuable professional skills you can possibly develop. And it really all comes down to picking the right words. First, let's look at what we really want to avoid. I don't agree. It's just too direct, isn't it? It can feel really confrontational and can immediately put the other person on the defensive. And just like that, the conversation is shut down. But check out this much, much smoother approach. I see your point, but this simple little phrase completely changes the entire dynamic of the conversation. It's a game changer. And what this phrase is really all about is respect. You're showing them you actually heard them, you value their input, before you even start to introduce your own perspective. Like, I see your point, but I'm a little concerned about the budget. It keeps the whole dialogue collaborative instead of combative. Here's another fantastic, really soft alternative. I see it a bit differently. This is such a gentle way to signal that you're about to offer a different opinion or a counterargument. And that's the key word here, gentle. It's not aggressive, and it's definitely not dismissive. All it does is frame your idea as just that, a different way of seeing things, not some big declaration that they are totally wrong. All right, let's move on to our final upgrade, and believe me, it's a big one. This is all about reframing one of the most direct and honestly, potentially damaging phrases you could ever use at work. Yeah, this is the one. This is the phrase to avoid at almost all costs in a professional setting. Saying, I think you are wrong, just feels like a personal attack. Suddenly, it's not about the idea anymore. It feels like it's about the person. So, what's the professional reframe? It's this absolute gem of a phrase. I have a different perspective on that. This is just so powerful because it completely shifts the focus. It's no longer about who's right versus who's wrong. It's simply about different viewpoints. It totally depersonalizes the disagreement, and maybe most importantly, it keeps the conversation open and productive. All right, we have covered a ton of ground here. So let's bring it all together in a quick recap so you have a really clear toolkit that's ready to go for your very next conversation. Okay, let's lock this new toolkit in. So you want to show strong agreement. Instead of that flat I agree, what are you going to say? That's right. You can say, that's right. You can say that again, or I feel the same way. Awesome. Now, what if you need to disagree politely? You're ditching, I don't agree, for what? Exactly. I see your point, but, or I see it a bit differently. And finally, for that really crucial professional reframe, you're going to replace the harsh, you're wrong, with the much smarter, I have a different perspective on that. You've got this. Look, the big takeaway here is that using these kinds of phrases will make your communication so much more effective and so much more collaborative. So the only real question left is, which one of these are you going to use to upgrade your very next conversation?